She fell in love with a dying orphan in Haiti.
She was 19 pounds, 2.5 years old, sick as can be.
And fought for years to adopt her.
They thought Missy's HIV was highly contagious. And so she was completely ostracized in this orphanage.
See Lisa and Missy Harper's happily ever after story.
Her health now is nothing short of a miracle.
On today's 700 Club Interactive.
Well, it's the story that everybody's talking about when Bill Connor of Madison, Wisconsin lost his 20-year-old daughter, Abby, in a tragic accident. He wanted to do something to honor her memory.
So he took a 1,400-mile ride on his bike, and what he heard at the end of his ride has touched hearts all over the world. You're going to want to see this. Take a look.
Bill Connor is a father on a mission. He started in Madison, Wisconsin in May, and he's been riding his bike ever since. He's doing it to honor his late daughter, Abby, who he lost suddenly when she was 20 years old in a tragic drowning. In that moment, the family made a difficult choice. Abby's organs were donated.
Abby loved everybody. If you were her friend, you were lucky. She loved to laugh, and she's a hugger. And that's one of the things that I've been doing along the ride.
Her father setting off on a 2,000-mile journey to bring awareness to organ donation. Along the way, he has discovered the kindness of strangers, taking selfies with people who have given him so much.
From the day that I've left to where I'm at today, the amount of people, strangers, that have gone out of their way to take me in, give me shelter, a meal, and a shower has just been unbelievable.
But it was his stop 1,400 miles in, arriving in Baton Rouge, that left him speechless. This is Jack, 21 years old. He was given Abby's heart. That father, Bill, couldn't let go. And Jack, grateful for his daughter's heart. And then Jack walks up to him, saying Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
He gives Bill a stethoscope. He's about to hear his daughter's heart.
There it goes.
The beauty of that is that there were two fathers that were able to celebrate Father's Day because Jack's alive, and of course I'm there, and Abby's alive. She's alive to me. She's alive inside of Jack. It's not about how many cars you have or homes you have or how much money. I mean, to give somebody life, if you're in a tragedy like this, you're able to give somebody an organ to help them live or live a better life. So my daughter just, again, set an example for me, and I've got to follow it, and that's what I'm trying to do.
No greater love. That is a wonderful story. Yes, it's not about how many cars you have, how much money is in your bank account. Can you give life? Can you share of yourself and share with others?
Yeah, boy, if you ever questioned whether you should be an organ donor or not, that story sort of leads you down the right path, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Well, we all know Duck Dynasty's Sadie Robertson. Well, we know she can hunt. We know she can fish, and she can also shoot a gun. But did you know she can preach?
Well, recently, Sadie was speaking to a group of college students, and she shared a brief clip from her message on Facebook. In the last week, over 2.6 million people have viewed it. I think when you watch it, you'll see why.
Time does not heal. Jesus heals. What time does, time fogs things a little bit. It makes you forget about it from time to time, but whenever somebody's name comes up or whenever something's right in front of you, if you feel a drop in your stomach and you don't feel peace and you feel fear, then time did not heal. You know? And for me, I called my mentor and I said, I don't think I really am healed from this, and I think I'm really still afraid. And she said, Sadie, the good thing is you can be, but the bad thing is you're gonna have to go there. Ooh, but I don't want to go there. Well, she said, well, you're going to have to. If you want God to cover it with truth, then you have to speak out the lies. If you want to experience God's beauty, you have to exhale your ugly. Oh, but I don't want to. But you have to. So I got down on my knees, heavy, brokenhearted. And I went back to the moments and the words that were spoken to me, and the times that I felt afraid, and I had to go there. The times that the world stepped on me, and I had to remind myself of it. In every single situation, every time the world stepped on me, something in me began to glow because Jesus was covering it, and he was redeeming it, and he was restoring it because he promised me he would. I just didn't promise him that I would. And finally, when I promised him I would, he took it from me just as he had promised to, and we became in an intimate relationship that cannot be broken. And yes, now I am fearless, and I have walked away from that.
Boy, she's hit the nail on the head with what she sang about it. You got to go back to it to get rid of it. If you want to hear Sadie speak live, her Live Original Tour kicks off again this October. You can go to her website. It's liveoriginal.com if you'd like to get tickets for that event. Powerful message.
Yes, it was. Well, after watching Sadie's bold stand, here's a question for you. Do you believe the next great revival could start with teenagers?
Well, on September 23rd, 50,000 teenagers from across the nation are going to bring Christ to their communities through service and gospel conversations. It's called Dare to Share.
Imagine with me every last teenager being reached with the hope of Christ. Every last one. What would our schools look like? What would our communities look like? What would our nation look like? That's why I'm excited to tell you about Dare to Share Live. It's all about one day, one mission, one hope. One day, a live simulcast event held in churches across the nation from coast to coast, where literally tens of thousands of teenagers are being trained, equipped, and unleashed on this one day for one mission. And that one mission is to reach their cities with the hope and love of God. How are they going to do that? They're going to pray for their cities. They're going to pray for revival. They're going to pray for their schools. They're going to pray for this nation. Not only that, but they're going to serve their cities. They're going to visibly demonstrate the love of God through service projects across their cities. And finally, they're going to share the gospel of Jesus Christ, engaging people in gospel conversations and that hope that only comes from Jesus. One day, one mission, one hope. And that hope is that every last teenager, every last one, encounters the love of God and puts their faith in Jesus Christ. Join us on September 23rd, 2017, and together, let's change a nation with the hope of Jesus Christ.
Well, it's not too late to sign up if you'd like more information about the September 23rd Dare to Share Day. All you have to do is go to their website, daretosharelive.org.
Well, that's pretty exciting.
Yes,
Can't wait to see the outcome of that. Well, here's a story you'll love. Bethel Church in Redding, California has a unique ministry called Breakthrough. It's specifically designed for children with special needs.
After hearing a lesson on baptism, one of the children asked to be baptized, then another one, and then another one. So the church prepared a special baptism service that could accommodate the needs of each child. And when it was all said and done, a total of 12 children had made their public profession of faith.
Some of the kids were afraid of the water, and some of them didn't want to get out. In fact, one of the children baptized himself a second time. Breakthrough's pastor, Chris Gore, and his team of volunteers all agreed it was one of the most beautiful and unique baptism services they had ever witnessed.
Yeah, I always love baptism services. They're the real deal, and it came from my experiences in India, where baptism was the signal moment. They could have experiences, they could pray to Jesus, but it was when they were baptized, it made a public statement to the whole community that they were now Christians, and it's a wonderful thing.
I'm also always really touched when I see a church that really recognizes and bends itself to include children with special needs and their families, because that entails some additional outpouring of love, I think, to do that. And to see how this was received and handled and how inclusive it was for everyone is pretty special. Another great testimony. Well, coming up, it was love at first sight.
She said in this real gravelly voice, because the tuberculosis was so high in her lungs, she could barely speak. She went, "Hello, Mama Blanc." That means hello, white mama. And I was like, stick a fork in me, I am done.
Hear Lisa Harper's emotional journey to rescue a dying orphan in Haiti. If you love a happy ending story, you don't want to miss this one. Stay with us. Popular author Lisa Harper speaks to thousands of women at conferences around the world. But after the big events, she always went home alone to an empty house. That's not the case anymore. What changed? She met a little girl named Missy.
I was a mostly happy, middle-aged woman, single, never been married. I always teased and said my husband was lost and wouldn't stop to ask for directions. All my friends are married and have kids, and I thought, Lord, that's not going to happen for me. I have missed the window of biological motherhood. I was praying about the possibility of adoption, and I told these 4 girls at church, I said, I just can't quite let this idea of adoption go, but will y'all pray with me that I'll just have wisdom regarding what God wants me to do? And 3 of them basically said, we've got your back, we'll pray with you. And then one of them said, you shared with our small group that you were sexually molested when you were younger. And she said, I know you've been to a lot of Christian counseling, but just in case you weren't fixed, you might unwittingly transfer some of that trauma onto a child. So she said, I don't think you're a good candidate for motherhood. I know you want to nurture something. So my encouragement to you would be to go to the Nashville Humane Society and adopt a dog, because you're really good with pets. Her words resonated with the deepest fear in me, that there was something in me so damaged that it really couldn't be redeemed. And so I took my adoption application. I was 40 years old, and I put it in the back of my file drawer at work. And the next day I went to the Nashville Humane Society and I adopted another dog. It was 7 more years. I was 47 years old before I was finally brave enough and believed God big enough to start the adoption process again. I wanted a kid who didn't have much of a shot at a mama and a daddy, because I do think that's best case scenario for a child to be adopted by 2 parents. But I said, if there's a child who doesn't have that shot, or it doesn't look like they're gonna have that shot, then sign me up. And I lost 2 domestic adoptions before a friend called me and said, just got home from Haiti, and while we were there, one of the young mamas died of AIDS and left behind a 2.5-year-old who's really, really sick. She has HIV and tuberculosis and cholera, and doctors are saying she's not gonna make it. But I thought about you, because you said you wanted a kid nobody was standing in line for. Would you pray about this? And I said, nope, I've been praying about this for 30 years, sign me up. And 6 weeks later, I was in Haiti, and they put Missy in my arms for the first time. Sorry. She was 19 pounds, 2.5 years old, sick as can be. She reached her little brown finger up and grabbed my pinky finger. And she said in this real gravelly voice, because the tuberculosis was so high in her lungs, she could barely speak. She went, "Hello, Mama Blanc." That means hello, white mama. And I was like, stick a fork in me, I am done. And so that started the adoption process. Initially, I was hoping it would only be a couple of months. And of course, that dragged on and dragged on. Based on Haiti's regulations, I had to move her from that village to an orphanage about 2 hours away. And that was the most difficult part of the whole journey. That was a 1.5 years in. The nannies at this particular orphanage would not pick Missy up. They thought Missy's HIV was highly contagious. And so she was completely ostracized in this orphanage. I didn't know any of this. And I went down there. At that point, I hadn't seen her for 4 months. And I started sorting through all the other kids, and I couldn't find Missy. And I started to panic. And then the closer I got to this shape in the corner, I realized that's my child. That's Missy by herself in the basement. Face was filthy. She was just in a diaper, even though she had been potty trained for several years by then. It's like nobody wanted to tend to her because they were afraid she was contagious. And so I squatted down in front of her and I said, "Baby, it's Mama." And when she looked up and realized it was me, she just went like this. And I picked her up. And when I found out a short time later She hadn't been held probably in months. I wouldn't set her down because I thought my child will never again know what it's like to not have somebody who loves her who will pick her up. When I got the call, you can come get her, and I was like, how, like I was ready to, run to Haiti. I couldn't sleep. I was so excited. I danced in my house, and then I went by myself to Haiti because, I don't know, there's just something that I felt like that last part of the journey was just going to be mama and daughter, and leaving the orphanage, hugging everybody, and her just, you can tell she was like, well, this big pale chick is my lot in life. We get on the plane, I'm so amped up, I can't sleep. And I just held her hand the whole way. And friends of mine had gathered from all over to wait at the airport. You could hear people screaming in the national airport for Missy. But I'm telling you, every day since I brought her home, I think is sweeter than the one before. The day after I brought her home, we went straight to Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. She had some lung problems, parasites in her body. She had some effects of the cholera, certainly HIV symptoms. And so you just go okay, where do we start? And I just kept thinking, we're one step at a time, one step at a time. Her health now is nothing short of a miracle. Her HIV is the lowest level of undetectable. There's 2 different tests with pediatric HIV. So there is literally no HIV in her blood right now. There is not one single scar on her lungs from the tuberculosis that almost killed her when she was a baby. There are no residual effects, no scars, no negative consequences, no liver toxicity. She is healthy as a horse. Her life expectancy is exactly that of a child who never had HIV. She will have children. Her doctor, even about 6 months ago, he said, Lisa, I can't explain this. He's one of the top pediatric infectious disease specialists in the world. And he said, I can't explain this. And I said, oh, I can. I can explain it. I want her to have a pedal to the metal life. I want her to dance. I want her to sing. I want her to celebrate and to live in light of the reality that God celebrates her. I wake up grateful every day. I've never been so grateful in my whole life. I'm grateful first for the goodness of God. Missy isn't my hope. Jesus is my hope. But through this story, things I had taught about Jesus, books I had written, things I'd studied in seminary, it all became Technicolor.
Boy, it's really true, isn't it? Love is a funny thing. I mean, we can read about it, we can talk about it, we can intellectualize it, but until we engage in it with someone that we genuinely love and care about, we don't realize just how amazing and wonderful it is. There's so many levels of this story that are unbelievable to me. I mean, one is just Lisa's commitment, that I'm going, and this little girl's coming out of there. I'm standing firm. There were so many things in her life, her age, probably her work, the daunting task of getting an adopted child out of Haiti, for one thing. I mean, along the way, you could have totally understood if she would have said, great idea, but it's just not going to work.
It's too hard.
Yeah, it's too hard.
What would you say to somebody that's thinking about adoption and knowing these hardships? What would you advise them?
Well, I think there are some very legitimate things that we need to know before we take a step like this. It doesn't mean you don't engage in the process, but even the Bible says, count the cost before you build a house, and then get educated. Find out what you're going to need to do to build that house. It doesn't mean don't go. It just means be fully prepared. And what I see in Lisa is that the joy that God has given her, this has been a reciprocal blessing. I mean, this little girl has come out of...
all adoptions that way?
Well, I think so. But when I think of where this little girl would be if Lisa hadn't gone.
She wouldn't have made it, probably.
She wouldn't have made it. And she, you know what? She would have died alone in a corner.
Right.
I know it's not for everybody, but, Lisa had a heart for it. And I say, if God's given you a heart, run to the airport or wherever. She's written an amazing book, Gordon. It's called The Sacrament of Happy. I love the title of that. It's available wherever books are sold. And, God promises us joy. And then Very often he also gives us happy, and happy's wonderful.
Happy is wonderful, and one of the keys to happy is to find someone to help.
Yeah.
The American dream, if you will, of it's about your car, it's about your house, it's about your career. Yep. You can have all of those things and not have happy. Happiness comes when you're really, truly giving of yourself to someone else.
And the people are all around us.
Well, all around us, yeah. But think of that little girl in an orphanage where no one would hug her. Yep. And you'd like to think that's 1 in a million. But the reality in orphanages is that's not 1 in a million. That is actually common.
Yeah, it's not. And yet, the thing that's so hopeful that I see is nations are changing their attitudes about adoption. And in country, we're now seeing families rise up, lots of times within the church, of course, and saying, we'll take this child, we'll take that child, we'll take that sibling group. And I'm a huge proponent of all of that.
It's one of the marks of Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're willing to open our homes and have people come in and be part of our family because God opened his home, allowed us to be adopted into his family.
Yep.
And let's show forth his light.
It's a great picture, yes.
Right. Well, coming up, a young boy becomes a Christian in one of the most Buddhist nations on earth. See how it happened up next. Well, 6-year-old Hamdang lives in a Buddhist nation, and recently he became a Christian, thanks to CBN's animated series, Superbook.
Recently, 6-year-old Hamdang started attending a Sunday school class at a Christian church near his home in Thailand. There's a big reason he keeps coming back: Superbook. His favorite episode so far? The story of Abraham and Isaac.
I saw when the man was about to kill his son, and God stopped him. God said, "Do not touch the boy. It's just a test."
94% of the people of Thailand are Buddhists, including Hamdang's family. But the boy's father doesn't mind his son attending church. In fact, he walks him there and drops him off every Sunday.
I'm not against him going. I know if my son goes to church and has something to hold on to, I think that is a good thing.
As he attends, he's learned more about Jesus and the Bible. This is his teacher, Miss Tariga.
One day we were talking about Jesus, and I asked Hamdang, "Would you like to be in Jesus' family?" He said he was ready.
In my prayer, I said I wanted Jesus to come in my heart. I prayed to be a Christian kid.
And Miss Tariga reported that he's taken what he's learned home to his parents.
He told me when he went home one day, he said, "Mama, our house has no Jesus, but Jesus is at my teacher's house and at church."
Sometimes he says, "Mom, Jesus is real, you know. You must have faith." He always invites us to church on Sunday.
Meanwhile, parents are beginning to attend Superbook classes too.
The adults, when they bring their kids, some of them sit in and join the class. It's not just the cartoons. They stay for the Bible lesson too. I'd like to thank you for Superbook. You produce the best lessons for children.
I love my teacher and I love Superbook so much.
Amazing things happen when children see the stories of the Bible. They are touched. The Word of God never returns void. And when Bible characters in Superbook are talking, they're talking verses from the Bible. And the wonderful thing about animation is we're able to take it into all the languages of the world. It's incredible. You can be a part of it. You can be a part of taking the stories of the Bible to the children of the world. How? By joining the Superbook DVD Club. We're closing in. We've already completed 42 languages. We're closing in on our initial goal, 55 languages around the world. And once we hit that goal, we want to take it into all the television broadcast languages. That will be our next goal. Be a part of it. And your gift to the Superbook DVD Club goes into the production costs, translation costs, distribution costs, and you enable us to take these stories around the world. And for your gift, we want to send you not just one copy, but 3 copies of the latest episode, which is the story of Peter and Cornelius. And then we have a special summer selection where you get 3 more episodes on top of that one. So it's 6 DVDs for a gift of $25. Call us now, 1-800-700-7000. Here's a word for you. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change.